Hello, this is Shaina Stikar from ShortPoint, and in today's session, I will be going over content management in SharePoint. So Enterprise Content Management, or ECM. Enterprise Content Management is an approach of managing organization content, starting from the moment this content is created in the system. So in this case, we're going to be taking SharePoint as an enterprise content management system, deciding what additional information about the content is to be saved and collected, how can it be shared, and also a very important aspect and part of the ECM system is the tools that the system offers to the organization to be able to protect its content, decide who can do what with it, set policies to control access to sensitive information, and set alerts and reports to keep an eye on what is going on with the content. So in SharePoint, content creation is closely coupled with the Office ecosystem and apps. What this means is that you can seamlessly create Office documents both in web browsers and using the rich clients and phone apps. For other documents and files other than Office documents, you can simply upload them into SharePoint. Already automatically set up for every document library, so you can keep all the changes that are made to documents. You can restore a previous version of the document or decide to delete an old version of this document. Also, other types of contents can be easily added to SharePoint. We can state news, highlights. You can store different kinds of data as in forms of lists. You can also manage your site, pages, contents, which is known as web content management in SharePoint. You can actually manage the actual content of the site pages. You can change the branding of the site, apply themes, colors, and change the presentation of overall presentation of the site. You can also simply share a link to an existing document. We're going to be seeing this later on. It depends on the policy setup in the organization, but you can share even for external users. So content types. Content types, as we stated earlier, provide a way to classify information about the content. So basically, you're saying that there's certain types of contents. These properties are known as metadata, or which is data collected about the actual content. Say, for example, a document. An important thing to point out is that a content type defines the schema of the data and doesn't store the actual data. So once you create a content type, you can attach it to a list or a document, and the list and the document library, and the list and document libraries will be holding the actual data, where the content type will just define the schema and the properties that are shared for this particular type of content. You can also attach a document template to a content type. So say, for instance, you decide to create an invoice content type. You can attach a document template, so whenever you create an invoice content invoice content type, you're going to be starting from the template already set up for you, instead of starting off of a blank page. So content types can be reused, defined and reused across all the sites inside of the same site collection, but also can be shared between site collections and web applications in the case of on-premise configurations. This is referred to as content type syndication. How this works is that you create a particular type of site collection called content type hub, that will hold the definitions of all the content types that you will be sharing. And other site collections will be subscribing to this content type hub. So this offers you a way to centralize the making changes into your content types. So all the changes are going to be made in the content type hub and then pushed out to the different site collections that are subscribed to this content type hub. Okay, so let's see how, let's take a look actually to content types. So we're gonna see here how to manage content types for inside of a site collection. So you're gonna have to go to site settings, and you're gonna find site content types. And this will list all the site content types that are available in this site collection. So you can see here that you have many content types, that are predefined here by SharePoint. You can also create your own content types. There are groups to help organize your content types. You can see there is a custom content type, and I have already created a client correspondence content type. So once you're on the screen, you can find the details about the site, the content types that you are looking to. So first important thing to point out is that the site content types, like all content types, actually are all inheriting from a particular content type. So when you want to create a new content type, you're going to be prompted to select a parent content type for that. What this does is that, for instance, we can see that this content type inherits from the document content type. This makes all the metadata of the document available automatically for this child content type. So we can see here, here are the columns or the metadata or the shared property we previously talked about. So we can see name and title. These are inherited from both document and item content types. And then you can add on to this your own metadata. So here we have added a sender property, which is of type person, and then enterprise keywords, which is of type managed metadata. We're going to be seeing this a little later. So now that we have created our content type, a last point here, something we talked about is the document template. So you can attach a document template to a site content type. You're going to have to go to advanced settings here, and then you can choose the document template you have. It could be any Office document, and you upload it, and then it will be available for all the content that is going to be created using this content type. So once we have the content type created, we're going to want to attach it to a list or a library. So here I have this document library called documents. We can see here in this section the content types that are attached are related to this particular document library. A very important thing that you need to check or enable is enabling management of the content types on a list or a document library. For that, you're going to need to go to advanced settings, make sure the option is enabled here, so they can add and attach multiple content types to this particular list or document library. So here you can see we have already attached this content type client correspondence to this document library. So what this does is that it makes it available for users to create directly a particular document, which is client correspondence. Oops. Not sure what happened here. Okay, so I get to a new client correspondence document. I am presented with a document templates, like I stated earlier, instead of a blank page for other types, simple types of documents. Okay. Okay, so now that we have seen how the documents and files are created, let's take a look at how the content is managed throughout the next parts of its life cycle. So the main things to help coordinate activities of different people and users around this around the organization content is first managed basically in lists and libraries. All the lists and libraries you can add at any time. You can add additional data using custom columns directly to the list and libraries, or you can also add metadata to the content type and push them down to the lists attached to them. Users can easily change the way the content is displayed. They can use views and filters for that, and we're going to be taking a look at that. They can also define the organization taxonomy and use it to classify the content. We're going to be also taking a look at that. Also, a very important block here is that users can implement business processes, and they can also create workflows. They can use configure them, customize them, or create brand new. For on-premise, there will be SharePoint Designer and Visual Studio to create brand new workflows and attach them both to content types or lists and libraries. And for Office 365 and SharePoint Online, a very powerful tool for that is Microsoft Flow, where you can use templates or create brand new workflows without writing any code. Group conversations and calendar also can be involved around certain pieces of content. So whenever you're having a conversation about a certain piece of content, you can send out a link to this content in SharePoint instead of sending out copies and various versions of this document or file. So managed metadata service. Managed metadata service is a tool that helps classify the information inside of an organization. It is a centralized repository for organization taxonomy. What taxonomy is it is a formal classification of the words and terms used inside of the organization. The taxonomy defines terms and term sets. These are managed in a centralized way, and they are arranged in a hierarchy and a tree kind of organization. So maybe we can take a look at this. So I'm going to be using SharePoint Online in order to access the where the taxonomy is actually managed. You're going to have to go to Classic Features and open the Terms Store. So here, once you open the Terms Store, which is where the taxonomy for the whole organization is going to be managed, you're going to be presented, as I said, with a tree, which represents the entire taxonomy of the organization. So here's the taxonomy for the entire tenant here. And under that, you're going to have groups where you can organize your term sets. So each term set represents a kind or category of the taxonomy. You can create, for instance, a department here, for example. That's going to have, this is actually the term set, which is the second level of the representation in the tree of the taxonomy. It's going to hold the terms that are here stated as engineering, finance, HR. These are all terms. These are the actual values you're going to be using in tagging your content. So we can see here, you can have synonyms and abbreviations, so you don't worry about how the word is spelled, because you're going to be referring to exactly this term, and it's going to be the same overall, the whole organization. So now I have product list here, to which I'm going to add a managed metadata column. Of course, we can add it to the content type and then publish it into the list content type. But we can also highlight how we can easily add columns into an existing list containing already content. So we can name this column category. We're going to have to select manage metadata here. And here we're going to be presented with the tree of the whole organization meta taxonomy. So I'm going to select, products, categories. Click OK. And so what this does is it creates a managed metadata, a column, and in my list. So whenever I select a list item, I'm going to find a category property. And instead of having like a free text input where I can type in whatever I want, it's going to present me with the predefined categories I have defined in the term store and the term set. So let's take a look at these. Here I have accessories and home appliance. So the only values I'm going to be able to set are these two. Of course, you can set the manage metadata column to accept new values. So for instance, if I want to type, if I want to let people add up to this term set, I can do that, and people will be able to add new terms directly from here. Okay. So maybe I can also highlight how easily you can share links to documents inside of SharePoint. So here you can click share, and then you can decide who is the link going to be sent to. So depending on the policy of the organization, you can send then decide whether it's going to be allowing editing the link or not. You can send it to an external user just by sending them the link. And in the policy of the external sharing policy of your organization, you're going to be setting if it is possible, and also you can set if the link will expire and when does it expire. We're going to be talking about this a little later. So just in a way of sharing easily your documents. Okay, so now that we have seen how to create and how to manage already existing content, a very important thing is how to protect the organization content throughout its whole life cycle. So let's take a look at these three important blocks here that that emphasize how important that policies protecting content of the organization. So first block here is how we can keep content secure by controlling who can access the content itself. So you can set permissions for users and groups. These permissions can be set on the site collection, site list and document libraries, and down to list item level. So by default, the permissions are inherited. So you can set up the permissions at the upper level, and they will be the same at down levels. This inheritance can be broken, of course, in order to set individual permissions to certain entities, like list documents or certain sites or certain documents themselves. There are also things like data loss prevention and information rights management to control access to the actual content. Data loss prevention and information rights management let the organization control access to sensitive information about the inside of the content. So, for instance, in data loss prevention, you can select from predefined templates or define yourself templates to detect sensitive information. What that is like you can detect presence of financial data or certain type of information inside of the documents themselves that let the organization consider them as sensitive information, and then set policies on how to handle access to these type of information. So, for instance, we're going to be seeing that you can the organization can control what the actual documents containing sensitive information can be done with. They can prevent printing these documents, modifying them, downloading them. Second block is the insight. So so in SharePoint, you can have a set of tools to set alerts and reports about activities that are done on your documents existing in SharePoint. Also, policies for data retention and document retention can be set. We're going to see just a little bit of about that right now. So information rights management, as we stated before, is a way to protect sensitive data inside the content. So there are templates that you can choose from. You can choose to detect information inside of the document. Documents containing, for instance, social security numbers, or as stated, like financial data. You can consider this as sensitive information, and then you can set policies on how this document and content, and by whom could this be accessed. So you can decide to prevent copying these kind of documents, modifying them, printing them, even encrypting these documents. You can decide also the policy can be set to set an expiry date on already downloaded documents, so they are out of this system, but they can still hold a piece of policy controlling the access to these type of documents. Okay, so last we're going to see something called enterprise records management. So enterprise records management in SharePoint is a tool that helps organizations manage their records. So a record is a piece of content that is considered as proof or evidence of a certain activity or transaction of the organization, and is considered very important and cannot be deleted or altered. So once you declare a document as a record, it is automatically being prevented from being edited. So it's going to be read-only, and it's going to be prevented from being deleted. So two approaches here in SharePoint of managing records. First one is what's called in-place records management, which is you already have the document inside of a certain document library, and then you can decide to declare this document as a record. This, as we stated, will prevent it from being deleted or edited, but it's going to be staying in the document library it is created on. The second approach is to manage the records in a record center, which is a kind of a repository for managing the overall organization records. Also, you can, of course, set policies of retention of these records. You can define stages of this retention. You can define how many time the content is going to be kept and when can it be deleted. For instance, you can keep certain types of records for like 5 to 10 years, and so on. And this depends on the content type itself. So you can have different records from different types for on which you can apply different retention policies. Okay, so that is it for this session for today. I'm going to thank you for your attention. I'm going to be here for a QA session.